Hey everyone, Hatman here. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. This isn't really a podcast or, a live stream, obviously, but it's basically a rant about the Ghostbusters drama that happened today. And if you've already read what I had to say about it on Twitter, you might want to just go ahead and skip this because I'm going to be rehashing a lot of that, unless you just, really like to listen to me rant about things, in which case, feel free to. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, on his channel Cinemasker and on his website, put out a video that basically said that he wouldn't review the new Ghostbusters movie when it came out. And I don't think it's supposed to drop for another, 2 months now? But anyway, he basically said, I refuse to do it because Ghostbusters means a lot to me, it means a lot to my childhood, and I know I'm going to hate it. Why pay money to go see something that I'm going to hate, and I'm going to review badly anyway? I've not been impressed with, anything I've seen about it so far. I didn't even want a reboot. I wanted a Ghostbusters 3 with all the original ones, but any hopes of that died with Harold Ramis, so too fucking bad. And the internet had a collective aneurysm, I suppose. It caused a massive shitstorm on Twitter, and I could not fucking believe it. I mean, this was like a 6.5 minute video, eloquently going over the points of why he had such a problem with it, that he wasn't going to see it. This was going to be the only thing that he said about it. He wasn't going to go in and bash it needlessly. He was going to talk more about the lead up to Ghostbusters 3 and why it was in development hell for so long and why it had so many problems, all that shit. And for some reason, that just pissed people off so much. I mean, Ghostbusters was trending on Twitter today, May 17th. Trending because of one video about it. People just threw a fit. And, of course, the usual defense came up. He only hates it because misogyny. He only hates it because it's women in it. If it was a sequel with the guys in it that had women in it too, he'd still hate it. And people said things like, "Oh, well, when he was doing the AVGN episode of Ghostbusters, he said he'd go see a third Ghostbusters movie if it was just all them, shitting into a bag or something." That kind of thing, which is that's a valid criticism, at least ish, because it's not the original Ghostbusters. But I digress. Yeah, this sort of thing has just blown up. I mean, Patton Oswalt got involved, for God's sake. People are just losing their collective shit, and the usual defense is coming up that the criticisms are based in misogyny, in sexism, and this wouldn't happen if this wasn't an all-female remake. Now, think about that for a minute. All-female remake, or all-female reboot. That's all we've been hearing about this movie since it was first announced. I mean, for God's sake, that was the headliner. When Sony said that they were going to make a Ghostbusters cinematic universe, that wasn't the headliner. It was all-female Ghostbusters reboot. Does anyone even remember the fact that at one point they were going to make an all-male Ghostbusters reboot-ish in that cinematic universe, and Channing Tatum was going to star in it? No? You don't remember that? Because that was a thing that fucking happened. That was totally a thing that happened. But that took a back seat. The whole cinematic universe thing took a back seat to the fact that this was an all-female reboot. That was what was pushed by everybody. That is what was pushed. So from the fucking outset, the marketing point of the movie has been, this is the women's version. This is the women's version. And James Rolfe addressed that in his video. He said, that's all we've been hearing. It's not the Ghostbusters reboot. It's the female Ghostbusters, which would make the 1984 version the male Ghostbusters. And that just that fucking speaks to the situation so well. That's all people want to talk about is their genders, for God's sake. I mean, that was literally all that he said about gender in that video, and yet he is being bashed as a piss baby, an angry baby man, a stuck-up little entitled nerd boy who's afraid that his childhood is going to be crushed because he can't stand the fact that there are women in Ghostbusters now. Like, fuck off. Holy shit. I mean, if you're marketing the movie explicitly as this is Ghostbusters but with women, just so you can deflect any sort of criticism as misogynistic, then honestly, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. People have a ton of reasons why they don't want to see this. They hate fucking reboots. The trailer was god-awful. It is the most disliked trailer on YouTube, but of course that's because of misogyny. Even though, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has what, like 2 million dislikes on it? Way more than this goddamn movie? I must be just angry, entitled nerds. What the fuck do they know? But seriously, people might not like the actors. For God's sake, I don't really care for Melissa McCarthy. I think she gets typecast in practically whatever she's in. She reminds me of Kevin James, who also gets typecast in the things that he's in. Like, yeah, I'm sure she is a great actress. Funny as all hell. Yes, she has made me laugh before, but she gets typecast so often. Did I want to see her as a Ghostbuster? No! For God's sake, when they were saying that Emma Stone was in talks to do it, I was on board with that. I was totally on board with that. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler? Oh, hell yes. I would totally watch a Ghostbusters movie with those two in it. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And ironically enough, Emma Stone said she didn't want to do it because she didn't want to commit to a franchise. So I think that's what Sony is banking on more than anything else, that this becomes that cinematic universe after all. But I'm digressing again. I mean, people have their reasons for not wanting to see this movie. Yeah, some people might be fucking sexist. They might say, yeah, I prefer an all-male Ghostbusters cast. And that's, fuck them. Fuck them, because that's not valid criticism. That's just stupid. But every criticism is being reduced down to sexism. I mean, what you're looking at right now is just a compilation of headlines from online news outlets over the course of 7-8 months-ish. No, I think one of them is from last year, July of last year. But anyway, yeah, all of these are saying Ghostbusters criticisms are sexism. People are hating on it because it's sexist, because it's got women in it. If you hate this, then you hate women. Like, that's all people address the criticism with, and that is not fucking good. I mean, what does that tell you about the movie? If the only point you have to defend it with is people hate it because they hate women. That doesn't bode well. You better fucking hope the movie's a masterpiece at that point, because if it sucks, you're going to have some explaining to do. But even with all this, like, even with all of this, Ghostbusters, this Ghostbusters at least, is somehow the only sacred cow that you are not allowed to criticize. The only reboot that you're not allowed to be upset over. I mean, think of another 80s icon that was rebooted fairly recently. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not talking about the Nick cartoon. I'm talking about the Michael Bay movie that everyone was fucking pissed at before the first trailers dropped even. Before the trailers dropped, when they were talking about the Ninja Turtles being aliens. Everyone was pissed. Everyone was livid. Everyone went into that movie ready to fucking eviscerate it. And they were wholly justified on it. When that movie came out, it was dog shit. Total fucking dog shit. But nobody called anyone entitled. Nobody said, it's not going to ruin your childhood, when they complained about it. When they said those sorts of things. Nobody called anyone a goddamn misogynist for saying that Megan Fox had no right to be April O'Neil. I'm not surprised Megan Fox is still in acting. For God's sake, she's more of a model than she is an actress. Hell, I had that problem with Transformers. But that's another one, another 80s icon. Transformers. It's okay to hate that movie. It's popular to hate the Transformers movies. And for God's sake, they're making a fifth one. And then, like, what, 2 spin-offs with Bumblebee? Holy shit. But it's okay to hate those. It's popular to hate those. It's totally justified to say that Michael Bay ruined my childhood with goddamn Transformers and Ninja Turtles. I mean, he didn't ruin my childhood, because I'm a 90s kid. I didn't grow up in the 80s. But, again, I'm digressing. The hatred for those things is totally justified, totally excused, everyone's on board with it. But for some reason it's not okay with Ghostbusters. And maybe it's because it's got an all-female cast. Maybe that's the only reason why people are defending it so adamantly. Maybe it's because they think, well, this is our only shot to have, a female-driven movie. It's our only shot to have a major motion picture, driven by females in the main roles. Like, Star Wars didn't just do that and become the 3rd highest grossing movie of all time. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Sure. But, I mean, for God's sake, that's like the only thing that people talk about when they talk about this movie now, is they have to preface any sort of criticism with, I don't hate this movie because of women that are in it. That's how far we've gotten. Fuck's sake. And the conspiracy theorist in me wants to say, like, this movie was set up so they could beat any sort of criticism with, no, you're just sexist. So that any sort of critics going into it would be afraid of being labeled as sexist or misogynist and give it a good review anyway. I mean, yeah, total tinfoil hat bullshit, total conspiracy theory. It's more than likely not fucking true, but holy shit. Like, that's how far it's gotten. That's how fucking far it's gotten. For God's sake, though, like, James Rolfe can't even talk about the movie and address gender in it once. And that's in, like, a joking way, even, without being called a misogynist. That makes no fucking sense at all. But goddamn, like, if the only selling point of this movie is it's got women in it, and they're the Ghostbusters now, holy shit. You're not letting it stand on its own. You are not letting it stand on its own merits. I mean, yeah, nobody has seen this yet. Nobody has seen this. July, we will have a consensus on it. We will know what people think of it because we will have seen it. I have no desire to see it because I saw the trailer and wasn't impressed with it. I mean, it's like Warcraft. I saw the Warcraft trailer, I wasn't impressed with it. And I'm no massive fan of Ghostbusters either. Like, I didn't grow up with it. I only saw the movie for the first time like a couple of years ago. And since then I've seen it maybe 2 more times. So 3 times total. Yeah, about 3 times total. I'm not a massive fucking fan. But the movie just, it doesn't look good. It looks like a cheap comedy that's being made to cash in on the name of the franchise. Like, most reboots. Well, reboots that are comedies at least. But still, no one has fucking seen this thing yet. So why do you have the need to defend it so religiously almost? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yes, some people who are hating on it, that may be undue. But there are plenty of reasons to hate on it that don't involve sexism. I might not like the cast. They might not like reboots, especially reboots of movies that they are really emotionally attached to, like Planet of the Apes, for example. I'm talking about the 2001 Planet of the Apes, not the recent ones, because those were at least good. You can do reboots right. You can do reboots right, but you can do them terribly. And people, so far, seen the trailer, seen what's come out about it, and they think it's going to be awful. They could be right, they could be wrong. But stop trying to say that any criticism for this movie is rooted in misogyny. It's not what it fucking is. And if you keep saying that, you're selling the movie short. You're selling the movie short. You are not allowing it to stand on its own. And movies need to be able to live up to their own merits and not be defended so weakly like that. Because let's face it, that is a weak defense. It really is. That's all I have to say about that. I've been the Hat Man. Thanks for listening. And don't explode.